The video you're about to watch is actually part of a bigger course which is called ClickUp Fundamentals Mastery, and if you want to get access, it's absolutely free. You can find the link in the description below. And by the way, if you need help with your ClickUp setup, you can also find the link to schedule a 30-minute discovery session in the comment section below this video. With that said, let's get to the class. In this class, we're going to be discussing ClickUp Views, which is the third main setting that you will be using inside your ClickUp account to make it work for your company. You might be thinking, well, I have different statuses, different custom fields. What if I want to filter things out, or I want to only see items that have my custom field selected as full-time position, right? This is where ClickUp Views come handy, and I'm going to show you how this works. Again, we're going to approach it the same way we did during the last two classes, where we're going to start at the very bottom of the hierarchy, which is the list level. We're going to start setting things up there, and we're going to move and work our way to the space level. If you go to one of the lists inside your ClickUp, right, doesn't really matter if it's an admin task, a job opening, whatever you created, at the top of the list, and we're going to start with the list first. At the top of the list, you can see that there are different tabs, right? You can see the list tab, the board, the timeline. Now, these are ClickUp Views. They always show at the top of your screen, so no matter if you're on the list level, on the folder level, or on the space level, those lists will be shown at the top, and you can switch between them. And what ClickUp Views are is essentially different ways of how you can look at data. And again, some of you might prefer to see it as a list view, which is the standard view in ClickUp, right? I like it myself. I'm a huge fan of list view, just very simple, very clean. I can add some status or some columns in here. I'm going to show you how to do this in a second, but it's very simple. But some of you might prefer the Kanban board, or like a board over here, right? It's called board in ClickUp. And over here, you can see it shows us in a different way the same tasks. So whenever you're changing views, you're essentially manipulating the same data. You're just changing the way you look at it, at this data, right? You're not even manipulating the data because you're changing the way you're looking at it. So these are the views in ClickUp. And the main purpose here and the main question it answers and addresses is how can I see data from different kind of perspectives, I should say. So let's start with reviewing the views. First thing first is to add a view to your list level. The same applies to the folder and to the space level, is you have to click at the top of your screen, click on plus view. It's going to show pop-up list of all the different types of views that you can create. You can see this is a list, there is a Gantt, there is a board, which is Kanban, which is calendar, table, timeline. There is a lot of things. You can get confused and overwhelmed with this. So I suggest we start with the three main views that you want to use. The first one is obviously a list. You might say, well, I already have a list in my ClickUp, right? It's a standard view that gets added all the time. But sometimes you might want to filter things out or sort things in a different way. So this is where this comes handy. You can have multiple list views and have different types of filters applied to them. So let's imagine this. In my admin tasks over here, I want to have my list and I want to actually rename this. So I would right click on the list, say rename, and I would say these are going to be my tasks. Let me just change it from my tasks. Perfect. I renamed this view, and over here at the top right hand side, you can see different options. I can filter tasks, so I can say my assignee is me, right? And then this way it only shows the tasks that are assigned to me. I can also say the assignee is someone else from my team. This way this is going to be view for them. Or I can use the me mode, which is a dynamic field and it allows you to, whenever someone opens this page, they see tasks that are assigned to them. So if I open this, I'm going to see my task. If you open this view, you're going to see only your task. And again, this is done with me mode over here. But this is one of the types of the filters that you can apply, right? There is a lot of the other filters that you can apply for your views. You can say, I want to see tasks that are not only assigned to me, but where the due date is today. You can see it's empty because there are no things for today. Let's say next 7 days. There is only one task that I need to complete in the next 7 days. Here on the right, and you can have more filters applied here. You can add multiple filters. If you see I add filter here, it gives me an option to select whether it's an and statement or an or statement. The only difference is if you're adding an and statement, it basically is the due date is this, and this task also should have the tag, which is application, right? You can see there are no tasks like that. If I click on or, what it does is it says, if the due date is next 7 days, or show me the task where the tag is application. So again, it's just different type of logic over here. You can also create the nested filters in here, and you can also say where the due date is next 7 days, or the tag is this, and for example, the due date is next last 7 days, whatever the thing is, right? So again, this can be pretty customized to your specific use case, but this is how you're adding the filters in the view. Now, this applies to the list view, to the board view, to any other view. What I also wanted to show you is that here to the right, you can also see the options where you can show the completed tasks, right? It shows you tasks and subtasks. You can also select different assignees, right? To show tasks for different assignees. You can do this in the filter like we did together just a second ago, or you can select assignee from here. Again, it's just a quicker way of doing this. And then you can also say, I want just to see my task, which shows you the me mode. And again, this thing is going to apply to all the team members if you were to save the view. So whenever you're updating this, just make sure you click the save button, or you also enable autosave this time. This way, every time you're changing something in the view, it also applies to everyone else in the account. Perfect. So now we have my tasks view over here. Whatever the filters we applied, right? We can be different to your use case. Now let's say we want to add a different list, which we can say is going to be called, instead of my task, it's going to be called team's tasks, right? So this way, I can even drag and drop them to change the location and kind of to reorganize them slightly. And over here, I can apply different types of filters. So you can see I have 2 list views, but those list views have different filters and different purposes. The way I like to think about views is just, again, why are you using it? So just figure out what is the use case. For example, if you want to have a view to log in at the beginning of the day and see all the things that are assigned to you, that's view number 1, right? You're using this at the beginning of the day, and this is a specific use case for you. For example, if you want your team members to use some view at the end of the day, just to make sure that they're not missing anything or see all the tasks that they completed for the day, that can be an absolutely separate view. And again, we've discussed that there can be a list view. Maybe some of your team members prefer to have a board view. This can look something like this. And again, if you click on the view button, add view, you can click on board, you can add table. I'm going to show you how this looks in a second. In the board view, you can see that the same thing applies. You can have filters, you can filter things. You can also change or filter by assignees, which is a quick button here. You can also assign the me mode, which is going to show you only your tasks here. And you can also sort tasks. You can sort them by name, whatever you prefer, right? I just changed it by name. You can see that it sorted things out. I can click on save to make sure that the view is safe. This is the list and the board view. Now, this too, honestly, is the most used views that you're going to probably be using, but sometimes you might want to use a table view as well. Now, these are the basic views. Obviously, there are more. You can see that there are like basically a dozen of them, and you will have to play around and find which one you want to use. The timeline, the Gantt view, which are more advanced, will be covered in a different course, which is again probably going to take us a little bit more time. The workload view, so there are a lot of interesting things here. I want to show you the basics for now. So we're reviewing the list view, which looks something like this, the board view, which looks like different cards or the Kanban board, and we have the table view, which is again looks more like an Excel file or a Google spreadsheet, right? Over here, the same things, you have different columns. You can show different columns, by the way, in the views. This is just again different way of looking at data. I prefer list more than table, but you might find this more easier to see information. Important thing to mention is that, again, as we're looking at the view, you might want to see different data points. We discussed with you the custom fields last time, so you might have some information that you want to show in this view, right? So you want to see, like, instead of seeing just all the information, you want to see a very specific data points to make a quick decision, for example. This is where you can click on the plus button. By the way, because we don't have a lot of custom fields, it's not going to show you here, but let me open the applications and show you how this looks here. So for example, for the application, all right, if I were to remove the me mode, you can see different tasks over here, different columns for assignee, statuses, due date, priority. So these are all the fields for the tasks. And if I want to add a custom field to see it in this view, I just need to click on add column, add existing, and I can show whatever I want. I can show my application score, my candidate email, and let's say I want to show their LinkedIn profile. And if you want to remove a tab, or I should say a column from the view, you can just click on that column name and just click on hide column. Make sure that you're not removing it. Some of the fields you cannot remove because those are the standard fields. But if you're removing or hiding the custom field that you just created, there is an option to delete the field. Make sure that you do not click that because that's literally going to delete the field from the account. You can restore that, but you don't want to do this. So you just need to hide the column instead of deleting it. And this way you can see now I have more information, or at least information that I will need to make my decision. The same with the list view. If you were to go here and click on the plus button, you can see in this example, I even have more columns, right? This way I can look and scan through all the applications or job posts that I have. Click on the plus button if I want to add something existing. I can go scroll through the list, see all the existing fields that I have, and add this to this view. Sometimes it might be a little bit overwhelming to have too many of them, so I would suggest you selecting 5, maybe 4 or 5 different custom fields or columns that you want to show in this view. So this way it's easier to scan through all the information that you have here and make the decision that you want to make. Again, the same applies to the board view, which is slightly different in how it shows it, right? Because you don't technically have columns, but you can also show custom fields as part of the ticket here, as part of the card. The way you do this is you would go to the settings of your view, and you would go to the fields that you see on the right here. And over here, you can do the same thing as you did with the list or the table view. You can add things, and you can say, I want their first name, I want their last name, and let's say I want their email. Cool, so this is what we have. We have their email, their first name, and there should be, maybe I removed the last name, but it doesn't really matter. Let's say, yeah, I removed their last name. So here we go. First name, last name, their email. So it's as simple as that. And again, you can make it and modify it based on what you want to see, because sometimes it is helpful to log into ClickUp and just have a quick overview of what's going on. Let's say Sarah, this is her email. You can even copy it from here. You can see 3 dots, copy email, send her a quick email, or let's say this is Sarah, I need to do something. Or for example, if I go to my job openings, right, there is some information on the card, let's say due date, that I need to see and make sure that I'm working on this task or moving it to the next phase. When you're building these views, it can become overwhelming. This is why I suggest you start with these 3 simple types of views, which is list, table, and board view, and try to think about the use case of when you or your team are going to be using these views. If it's at the beginning of the day, build this view around that. If it's at the end of the day, or maybe it's during your lunch break or your stand-up meeting, create your views around when you're going to be using it and around the use case rather than just creating them. Because again, it can become overwhelming. And the same thing with custom fields and statuses. When you're thinking about a specific use case, it's going to be much easier to come up with those ideas and much easier to use them. Now, with that said, the last thing that I want to mention in this class is that we just focused or viewed how to create views on the list level, right? If you're looking at the list, you only see tasks inside that list. Makes sense. What if you want to see tasks, for example, in multiple lists? Let's say I want to see my job openings and applications. I will go to my folder level, and again, is my waterfall analogy. If I look at the folder level, I'm going to see everything in all the lists inside that folder. So if I go back here, I click on the folder, right, and I click on list, you can see that tasks from here are both job openings and applications. And again, I can see all of them inside one single list. So if I were to go to the space level, again, if we were to the very top, it's going to show us all the tasks inside all the lists and inside all the folders inside that space. So I would click on the list, and you can see that there are a lot of different tasks. There are admin tasks, there are applications, and there are job openings. Now it automatically groups them by list. You can change that, and you can make them, let's say if I ungroup that, it's just going to show you all the tasks together, which is a little bit messy. But if you, again, come up with that use case and decide when you want to use this specific view, you can filter things out like we did together with you. You can filter them by assignees, by types of tasks, by different tags, and make that view look simple and clean so that whenever you're logging into ClickUp, or again, doing this at the end of the day, you can easily see information and do whatever you have to do. With that said, we've completed the third main functionality, or the third main feature you're going to be using to set up ClickUp. So again, if you set up your statuses for your task, if you set up your custom fields and your views, you're basically good to go and start using ClickUp with that. You don't need really to know anything else. You don't need to start using automations or creating complex dashboards. You just need this basic features to start using ClickUp and benefit from ClickUp. So with that said, we're going to be completing the last course or the last class for the 3 main ClickUp features, and then we're going to be moving to the next part, which will be called ClickUp Setup Frameworks. And now as we know how ClickUp works and we know the basic functionalities and features, and we know how it looks from inside, we're going to be answering the question of how now can you set this up for your specific use case, because I found this is one of the most complex things and many teams are doing this wrong. So let's jump to the next section and I'll see you there.